So there's some rather interesting facts that I came to realize the other day. Amphibia was the last Disney TVA cartoon that aired its first season before Disney Plus launched on November 12, 2019. On top of that, Amphibia is also the last Disney TVA cartoon to actually have a full Season 3 story where the creator ends the show on their own terms. Meanwhile, every Disney Channel cartoon released in the 2020s, with the Owl House and Molly McGee being the most notable examples, has been shortened or outright cancelled. Now, some of you might say this is a purely coincidental thing. Lots of shows do get cancelled all the time, and there are many examples of cartoons in Disney's past where they ended prematurely despite the creators wanting to push their stories more to a definite conclusion. I mean, it's no secret that Disney doesn't really care too much about the Disney Channel sector of their business when their other TV networks, movies, and theme parks earn more revenue. But this negligence of their Disney Channel shows has gotten worse ever since Disney Plus came into existence. The platform in general has been negatively affecting a lot of Disney's media and IP, and it's time for viewers and people within the company itself to acknowledge that. Now, saying that Disney Plus has been negatively affecting Disney's content is nothing new. There are countless video essays from much bigger creators who explain this as well. However, most of them are focused on how the platform affected Disney's biggest IPs like Marvel, Pixar, and Walt Disney Animation Studios itself. But out of all the IPs that Disney Plus negatively affects, it's Disney TVA that got hit the hardest. On the surface, it's easy to see why. It's no secret that cable TV is dying. More and more people are cutting the cord and turning to streaming sites like Netflix, Amazon Prime, or even YouTube itself to watch their favorite shows and discover new shows. I mean, that's how I discovered my favorite shows nowadays, and most of the best shows right now come from these platforms. However, while cable TV is dying, that does not mean the shows that air there have to die as well, and Disney knows that. Hence why all of our favorite Disney TVA shows are available on Disney Plus and even YouTube alongside cable TV. The problem is that most TV content like what you see on Disney Channel are just not compatible with how Disney releases content on streaming platforms. On traditional TV, shows air new episodes on a specific time, on a specific day, on a weekly basis. Sure, hiatuses occur, but each batch of episodes air within those parameters. In addition, most people don't have the ability to watch an episode at any time they like. Video on-demand recordings do exist, but the vast majority of people just relied on reruns of these episodes whenever they are able to have the TV on. As a result, most shows for decades are created with this in mind. Gravity Falls is actually a great example of this. Most episodes of the series stand on their own as good one-off stories, which is great for those who don't keep up with the show's overarching story. That means TV channels can air shows like it at any time. But each episode of the series leaves clues to what's next in the following episodes. For many big fans of the show, they can speculate on what is to come next. And they are able to do so because there is at least a 1-week gap between episodes. This format has been a staple for many shows, and especially Disney TVA shows like Gravity Falls and Amphibia, and it allowed most of them to develop decent-sized audiences. However, in the era of streaming, this format just falls apart. With Disney Plus, people can choose when to watch their favorite shows at any time they like. Now, that may sound like a good thing, but for the people creating the shows, it's actually not good for a few key reasons. For one, creators of shows inherently earn less money from streaming compared to cable TV and theaters, which is partly why the writer's strike occurred last year, by the way. But more significantly, in streaming, viewers are more likely to binge their content. This is especially the case now that Disney Plus has ads in their lowest tier subscription, which means having consistent watch time from subscribers is important to maximize profits. What that means is that Disney and other streaming companies now have the desire to release new episodes of shows in large batches, encouraging viewers to binge watch their shows. Now, if the content was made to be binged, then sure, that does not really matter whether or not the show is released all at once or on a weekly basis. But like we mentioned before, TV content is not made to be binged. Releasing a bunch of episodes all at once incentivizes people to binge watch certain shows in order to prevent getting spoilers. This in turn would mean less time for the show to build an audience more organically, which means a smaller audience and a smaller fan base that can hype up the show and freely advertise the show to more people. In addition, having episodes released in a bomb format just increases the length of a hiatuses in between seasons. This problem is pretty clear with, surprisingly, Amphibia actually. I know I said before that Amphibia was the last Disney TVA cartoon that was released before Disney Plus was a thing, and that it got to show its full story compared to its successors. But even so, they still kinda got screwed over by Disney Plus, but in a more indirect way. You see, while Amphibia did air all of its first season before the streaming service became available, it was only able to do that because the whole season aired on TV in 1 month. One new episode of the show aired every day for a whole month, which prevented it from showing its story in the pace it wanted to. I don't know if you guys noticed, but some episodes of season 1 actually ended with a bit of a cliffhanger for its viewers to contemplate what is next for the coming episodes. Now, this would make a lot of sense if the show aired one new episode on a weekly basis, but with the bomb format, viewers just had no time to contemplate. In addition, once the show's first season is on Disney Plus, people watch the show, and while some will walk away loving it like I did, others will find the show boring due to the pacing. That in turn meant the show had a smaller audience to start with. But with these problems with the bomb format on TV, some of you may wonder, why did Disney do this to Amphibia then? Well, that's because Disney is obligated under contract to release their content like movies and TV shows into theaters and cable first before they release it on the streaming platforms. So naturally, in order to have as big of a catalog as possible on Disney Plus, the company had to release any content they had ready at the time onto these platforms as fast as possible. Fortunately for Amphibia and its fans, the show was able to get decent enough support from viewers and the people from the corporate level to actually have a completed story, like how the creator mostly intended. But other shows weren't so lucky. The Ghost and Molly McGee is the most recent example of a show ending prematurely, mostly because of how Disney Plus works. Since Disney has the most amount of control over Disney Plus compared to any other platform that shows their content, the views and now watch time on that platform matters most to them. According to one of the series creators, Molly McGee was able to get a decent amount of views on the platform initially, and so plans for a third season were developed. But the show got less attention as time went on, even after releasing new episodes. Again, this is partly due to the incompatibility between how the show is paced and how the show is released on Disney Plus. As a result, the show didn't meet the expectations that executives wanted, and the third season was cancelled. Now, sure, Disney was willing to give the creators one more episode to wrap up the series in the way they wanted, but even so, it's a shame that Disney never gave the show the chance to really shine, especially given that Season 3 is supposedly a more exciting and serious season compared to the first two, at least according to these script leaks from Twitter. While I guess we should be at least grateful that the show was able to exist at all, I can't help but get mad at Disney for just letting the show sort of fail to meet the expectations of streaming. To make matters worse, it does not seem like Disney's mishandling of their TV shows will end anytime soon. With Moon Girl and Double Dinosaur, the first 14 episodes of Season 2 will be released on Disney Plus on the same day. Keep in mind, a third season of the show has not been confirmed to be greenlit yet. That implies that the show's renewal is heavily reliant on viewers to binge watch all of these episodes in the coming weeks. Then there's Hailey's On It, which hasn't even been greenlit for a second season yet, and there's a good chance that it may not ever get one. Again, probably due to lackluster performance on Disney Plus. Now sure, I'm not suggesting that all Disney shows are entitled to have 3 seasons to show its whole story, but when Disney is spending millions of dollars in creating a show like The Ghost and Molly McGee, you would expect the show to at least invest a little bit more in helping the show gain a bigger audience, whether it be through advertising or just allowing the show to have a good release schedule on Disney Plus. I mean, Big City Greens is a Disney TVA show that doesn't have the biggest audience ever, but Disney still allowed the creators of the show to continue its story to this day, and I'm glad that they were willing to do that. So what is the solution here then? Well, it's simple really. For one, Disney should just advertise their TVA shows more. Disney cannot just mostly rely on fans to advertise their shows, especially when their audiences are still relatively small compared to their other IPs. So for them to just spend a little bit more in marketing their IP would be great. But even if they aren't going to do that because they don't want to pay more people, the least that Disney can do is just release each episode on Disney Plus like what they do on cable TV. So basically, release one episode per week. This would, at the very least, allow the show to grow a bigger audience more organically, which again means more fans, and therefore more people who will promote the content for free. All of that would in turn mean more people will watch these shows and love them. Oh, and with a bigger audience for these shows, that would also mean higher demand for merchandise, which means another source of revenue for these shows. I mean, there's seriously almost no downside to this way of releasing content. The only real downside I can potentially see is that Disney will get somewhat less revenue from subscribers and ads in the short term due to lower watch time. But from my perspective, the trade-off is worth it. As much as Disney wants their streaming service to become the main source of revenue, the fact is they are still reliant on theaters, TV, and their other sources of revenue. So with this in mind, they have to stop forcing everyone and their content to fit into what Disney Plus wants to be as profitable as possible. In the end, Disney is an entertainment company. While companies have to care about profits to survive within our capitalist economic system, the heart of the business is the content that their workers make. So it's time for the company to give them a chance to show the stories in the way they want to show it. But hey, that's just what I think of Disney and how they treat their shows and creators. My thoughts may be different from yours. If it is, let me know all about your thoughts down in the comments below. And please give this video a like and subscribe for more content like this. Also, thanks again to Zed Maeda and Being Command Nerd for your support through Patreon. And thank you all for watching this video. I hope you all have a great day. See you in the next one.